A very good Tuesday evening and welcome. This is Primetime News. We come to you live and direct this evening from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Joel Outschool. Let's start off today with a look at the headlines.
146 complaints against the doctor arrested in Kurunegala. His reinstatement also questioned. Judgment of the Bill Pathu court case postponed for the fourth time. Case to be taken up again before a fresh bench. Suspects who allegedly drafted letters against the state handed over to the Colombo Crimes Division. Memorandum of cooperation signed between India, Sri Lanka and Japan for the development of the eastern terminal of the Colombo port.
Starting off with a top story this evening. Anunayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Madhugama Dhammananda Thero, said that US Ambassador to Sri Lanka was informed there will be no agreement to any deal that is detrimental to the country. The statement was made when MP Vimal Veeravansa called on the Anunayaka Thero.
Parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa called on the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect today.
බරපතල මත වෙනවීම කරන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම කරන්නයි මහානායක හඳුන්වන්නේ ආවේ මිනිස්සුන්වත් අද පක්ෂයක් බදාගෙන නෑ මහානායක අපට පේන්නේ නැහැ මේකේ තියෙන ඇත්ත බරපතල තත්වය තේරුම් ගන්න අපිට ලියුම් අරන් එනවා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරු කරුණු කාර්යයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයයි කියන කවුරුද සිදුදී එහෙමයි තාම වෙන දෙන්නේ එහෙමයි දැන් කවුරුත් එකතු වෙන්නේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට දාන කරන්න පුළුවන් ඒ වගේ නීති රීති හදාගන්න එහෙමයි ජනාධිපතිතුමාට පුළුවන් මේකේ තියෙන බල දැන් ගෝලීය ත්‍රස්තවාදී කියලා මේගොල්ලෝ උත්සාහ කළේ මේ ඇමරිකන් ආමික මේක ඇතුළට බස්සලා දැන් මේ ආණ්ඩුව ගිවිසුම් දෙකක් තව අස්සම් කරනවාද ඇමරිකන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා අනුමතයෙන් ගිවිසුම් මේ මහානායක හඳුන්නේ බොරුවක්.
MP Vimal Veeravansa also held a discussion with the Anunayaka of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Madhugama Dhammananda Thero.
ඇමරිකාවේ තානාපති තුමිය පසුගිය සතියේ පැමිණි අවස්ථාවේදී අපි දීර්ඝ වශයෙන් ප්‍රශ්න කළා ඒ පිළිබඳව. එහෙම ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ තමන්ගේ පාර්ශ්වය ගැන කල්පනා කරලා කටයුතු කරන්නේ. ඒ වගේම අපේ රට පැත්තෙන් ගත්තොත් වගකීම තියෙන අපේ රටේ පාලකයන්ට. නමුත් මේ දේශපාලන විරසක භාවයන් එක පැත්තකින් මේ අයට ප්‍රයෝජනවත් වෙලා තිබෙන ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ ඇතුළු විදේශවලට තමන්ගේ අභිලාෂයන් ඉෂ්ට කරගන්න මුදුන්පත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා පැහැදිලිවම අපේ විමසා සිටියා ඒ විවිධ අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් වෙන මේ ගිවිසුම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගිවිසුමේ අවසාන කෙටුම්පත අපිට දෙන්නේ කියන එක. ඉතින් තවම ගිවිසුම කස් කරලා අවසන් නැහැ කියන කතාව තමයි අපිත් එක්ක කියපු කාරණා. කිව්වා අපි නිතරම අපේ රටවැසියන් පැත්තේ රට පැත්තෙන් ඉන්නේ අපිට ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ උදව් කරන බව ඇත්ත. නමුත් මේ තීරණාත්මක සාධකවලදී අපි අපේ මාතෘභූමිය වෙනුවෙන් පිරී සිටින්නේ අපේ මහ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන්. ඒ නිසා අපි කිසිසේත් එකඟතාවයක් පළ කරන්නේ අපිට හානි කර ඒ විදිහේ කටයුතු කරනවා කියන එක දැනුවත් කිරීම කළා. ඒක ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ කළාට අපි අපේ පාලකයන්ට වලින් වල දැනුවත් කළාට ඒ අය ඒ පිළිබඳව අවධානයක් යොමු කරන්න බවක් පේනවා.
Now, although the religious leaders of this country and other concerned parties point out the need to protect important strategic assets of the country, it does not seem like the leaders of this country are heeding their advice. Now, foreign powers have been eyeing on these key strategic locations in the country for some time now. There are many countries waiting to spread their influence at key locations in places like Trincomalee, Galle, Hambantota, Colombo, or even the Colombo port, the location that you see behind me. Now, it is because of this very reason that we reported on the eastern terminal of the Colombo port facing a threat of falling into the hands of foreign countries. Yesterday, we highlighted the fact that the Sri Lanka Ports Authority had issued a media release confirming the existence of such an agreement and how the shares of this terminal will be divided. Now, it is only today that the cabinet paper on this matter was presented. And when it was presented, according to sources, the President had directed for the cabinet paper to be presented again in 2 weeks after this specific agreement is finalized and presented to the cabinet. But despite all of this, the Ministry of Ports and Shipping, issuing a media release today, stated that a memorandum of cooperation was signed between Sri Lanka, India and Japan. Now, although the cabinet paper was postponed for 2 weeks, the ministry signs a memorandum of cooperation with India and Japan. Now, the release goes on to note the manner in which shares and other powers relating to the terminal will be discussed and finalized in the future. But now the question that lingers on in everyone's minds is, why the massive hurry? What is the real reason behind the rush? Instead of preparing the agreements, presenting it to cabinet and to the people and then going ahead with the signing, why was the entire process rushed? Now, in 2013, when the CICT terminal of the Colombo port was being constructed, again under Chinese funds by the Chinese, the trade unions that objected to this were given a written promise by the port's authority that the development of the eastern terminal of the Colombo port will not be given to any foreign country. They were promised that any development activities on the eastern terminal of the Colombo port will be a 100% Sri Lankan project. Now, with this move to sign a memorandum of cooperation with India and Japan, have they violated this agreement? Also, for the development of the Colombo port, a loan was obtained from the Asian Development Bank. Now, the agreement with the ADB for this loan clearly states that the Ports Authority agree that if the two terminals are being developed, quote, the project shall be chosen through an open, competitive bidding process. Has any tenders been called from India and Japan, or have they been simply called up and phoned up and offered the deal? With the current turn of events, this is a serious question that begs to be answered. Also remember that there is a statement made by President Maithripala himself regarding handing over of these very specific assets to foreign countries. The President made this statement at the premises of the port itself, which adds even more significance to this statement.
I assure you that not even a small portion of land will be given to any foreign nation or organization. That is my policy. I will not give away the eastern terminal of this beautiful port that we are in now to anyone.
Now, adding to this, the President also at one instance said that India and Japan will not be given the eastern terminal for development, but they could be given the construction of a proposed western terminal. But however, these countries continuously insist that they be given the eastern terminal, which is 400 meters in length and is still to be completely developed. This terminal was already constructed when the government of good governance came into power back in 2015. Cranes could have been fixed and the terminal made operational during the past 4 years that this government of good governance was in power. However, these measures were stalled as the first tender process was annulled as it was found to be corrupt, and no tenders were called for the development of this terminal thereafter. For a moment now, think as to how much of loans have been granted from state banks to undesirable or unpopular ventures and companies. Now, I am speaking specifically about the massive loans in the billions that were granted to companies like MTD Walkers and companies like Perpetual Treasuries, who were simply allowed to loot the Central Bank of Sri Lanka out of all banks in the country, also through the intervention of state banks. Now, against such a backdrop, if the Ports Authority really didn't have the funds to complete this terminal, could they not have been given the required funds from a state bank? Why can't Sri Lanka be the sole owner of this eastern terminal? According to sources, the eastern terminal is the only possible terminal for the largest ships in the world, which are the post-Panamax ships, to dock at once the terminal, of course, is fully developed. Now, if that is the case, we are clearly trying to give away a truly valuable asset. Speaking further on the matter was Minister Daya Gamage when he was questioned on the same matter today. This was his response.
President Maithripala Sirisena in 2017, 2 years back, very vehemently opposed the fact that India taking part in the construction of the eastern terminal. Wasn't it decided back then that 51% will be owned by us? Was that the reason that he denied?
You just imagine the country situation today. Do you know 83% of our that tourism has gone, more than 300 flights cancelled. We expected this year turnover from tourism only 5.5 billion. So do you want to bankrupt our country, or that do you want to go forward? We have to think differently. Without that, without thinking, we have to think differently.
Minister Dayagamage says that our country performance has collapsed in every way. He says that the tourism industry and the economy of our country has plummeted. In order to save the country from such disaster, the best step is for the leaders of this country to accept their inabilities and inefficiencies. They were in power for approximately 4 years, and if they fail to stabilize the country from all aspects, if they fail to stabilize the country in terms of national security and economic stability and create chaos among the general public, this government or the respective cabinet ministers accepts the responsibility in this regard, the government must resign.
Now, while politicians are all for violation of due process and other procedure, rules and regulations, at the end of the day, it's a completely different person who suffers the consequences. Even yesterday, we highlighted the countless number of times that state officials had to pay the price for the sins of politicians. The best example is Lalit Veeratunga, and even today it was reported in court that certain state officials who acted under the direction of Minister Lakshman Kiriella, serving under his ministry, suffering for the sins of politicians.
3 suspects were arrested for attempting to post 600 letters containing defamatory remarks against the president and in a manner that jeopardizes public security were handed over to the Colombo Crimes Division today. The suspects were produced for inspection today before Colombo Fort Magistrate Ranga Dissanayake. The suspects were previously placed under the custody of the Colombo Crimes Division for 90 days under detention orders. The Colombo Crimes Division informed the court that investigations are underway into the incident under emergency regulations and the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The Defence Counsel requested for the suspects to be placed in remand custody. However, the magistrate declined this request. The 3 suspects were arrested along with documents containing defamatory remarks against the state at the Central Mail Exchange on the 2nd of last month. It was revealed that the suspects had attempted to propagate false information regarding the April 21st attacks and those responsible for it. It was also revealed that the suspects were employees of the media division of the State Ministry of Enterprise Development.
The current chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Kavan Ratnayake, to date has a clean record. Therefore, it would be wise for him to conduct himself in accordance with the accepted rules and regulations and procedures if he does not want to suffer the same fate as the employees of Minister Lakshman Kiriella under his ministry. Now, the statement made by Dayagamage makes it all clear that the country is sinking and you, the government, have failed the country. So as the people of this country have time and time again said, if you can't do it, please leave and hand it over to someone who could. The country cannot be developed by selling off bits and pieces of our assets to foreign countries. Now, the level of bankruptcy of this government is evident by the fact that they are now trying to even sell off the Samurdhi benefit scheme to boost their image. This brings us to another revelation by Newsfirst. 10 billion rupees was allocated for the Samurdhi beneficiary scheme under the budget proposal for the year 2019. Now, this is a fact known by us all. Now, what is shameful is the fact that Minister Lakshman Kiriella admitted in Parliament itself that these benefits would only flow down to supporters of the United National Party when questioned on the matter by MP Mahinda Amaravira. But however, they have taken a step further, proving again that there is no line of shame that this government is not willing to cross to create a better image for themselves. An event will be held on the 30th of this month in Ampara to grant the new Samurdhi beneficiaries with certain certificates. Now, generally, countries would not want to brand their citizens as poor people or people suffering with poverty. But Sri Lanka, the speciality of Sri Lanka is the fact that we take it a step further and we issue them a certificate branding them as poor people in this country. Minister Dayagamage, the subject minister, requested for 180 million rupees from the Samurdhi Social Security Fund to simply organize this event. Now, a little bit of a story on the Samurdhi Social Security Fund is the fact that This fund operates with the money that is being allocated for the Samurdhi beneficiary scheme. Now, the fund approved this amount. Daya Gamage requested then again for another 120 million rupees to be granted from again the Samurdhi Social Security Fund for this event that they're organizing on the 30th of this month. However, the Samurdhi Security Fund approved this as well and said that they want the money to be reimbursed to the Samurdhi Fund back again. Now, the plan is to get this money from the Samurdhi Social Security Fund from the compulsory deposits of the Samurdhi beneficiaries. Now, when the Samurdhi beneficiaries are given their Samurdhi benefits, a certain amount must be deposited as a compulsory deposit by these Samurdhi beneficiaries. These are being used at times of a death of a Samurdhi beneficiary, or at times of a wedding or some other special event of these beneficiaries to grant them a certain amount. But this money is now going to be used for an event that has been organized to boost the government image. Now, in total, 180 million rupees and 120 million rupees, 300 million rupees has been allocated for this event. And this, ironically, this 300 million rupees could provide Samurdhi for another 120,000 innocent people in this country. Also, another factor that should be highlighted is the fact that T-shirts were printed for this event at the cost of 70 million rupees. Now, also, it's a known fact that Minister Daya Gamage, in charge of this ministry, owns garment factories. Now, we aren't completely sure if this was done by one of those government factories, but there are instances in the past where ministers have used their political influence to gain personal welfare, as in to gain personal funds and to accrue other benefits. Now, the Samurdhi scheme was brought forward to empower the poor people in this country, to eradicate poverty. Does awarding people with these certificates of poverty empower them? Is this the true meaning of uplifting people from their plight here in Sri Lanka? Basil Rajapaksa distributed flagpoles to local government authorities during the previous regime, once again from funds of this Samurdhi beneficiary scheme. And currently, there is a case of misappropriation of funds going on in the Sri Lankan legal sphere regarding this case. Now, if Basil Rajapaksa distributing flagpoles to local authorities using the money of the Samurdhi beneficiary scheme was misappropriation, was deemed as misappropriation, and cases filed in this regard, why aren't these actions being branded as misappropriation, and why is the government resorting to such pathetic schemes? We will continue to bring more and more revelations here at News First, but we will continue with the news bulletin. Thank you very much, Joel. It's back to the news studios.
Well, thank you very much, Arlen, for that update. We move on to a story which made it to the headlines this evening. Now, sources from the Kurunegala Hospital said more than 133 complaints were received against Dr. Shafi Shabdin, who was arrested recently with 13 complaints made to Dambulla Base Hospital.
Dr. Shafi Shihabdeen was arrested on the 24th of May and is currently detained by the Criminal Investigations Department. Meanwhile, a large group of people were present at the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital today to submit their complaints against the apprehended doctor.
After recording all complaints received, we hope to conduct medical examinations as soon as possible. All examinations will be conducted with maximum transparency.
The Health Ministry appointed a 6-member committee of experts to investigate the complaints against Dr. Shafi. The committee members are Consultant Dr. Anil Samaranayaka, Administrative Services Officer L.A. Basnayaka, Consultant Obstetrician and Retired Gynecologist Dr. Lakshman Sena Nayaka, Consultant Obstetrician and Gynecologist Dr. U.D.P. Ratnasiri, Consultant in Community Medicine Dr. Sanjeeva Godakandage, and Investigating Officer S.I. Gunavardhana. The Ministry of Health had informed the Sri Lanka Medical Council to conduct an independent inquiry as well. The ministry has also launched investigations into the complaints submitted by a director of the hospital regarding the attempt made by the suspect to hand over a baby to a third party by amending the name board.
We cannot accept in any manner the committee that was appointed by the Health Minister. When we consider the views that were expressed by the minister during the media briefing, this committee is not of any acceptable standard. We request all members at the hospital to refrain from providing any statements to this committee, and we request the President to intervene in this matter and to appoint an unbiased committee to proceed with investigations.
අපක්ෂපාතී පරීක්ෂණ කමිටුව පත් කරන්න.
Meanwhile, following discussions with the directors of the Kurunegala Hospital, locals and religious leaders engaged in a silent protest opposite the Kurunegala Hospital, demanding for an unbiased investigation to be conducted in this regard. Our reporter on site said businesses were closed today as a mark of support to the silent protest. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has taken steps to ensure that health administrators will not provide any information other than technical information without the approval of the Secretary of the Health Ministry. Acting Director General of Health Services Lal Panapitia stated that all medical administrators attached to hospitals and other medical units that come under the purview of the Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine must focus their attention towards this matter.
Now, several factions raised questions about the manner in which Dr. Shafi Shihabdin was reinstated in the medical service after contesting in the 2015 general elections.
Dr. Shafi Shihabdin resigned from his position at the Ministry of Health on the 3rd of July 2015 to contest in the general elections. The ministry accepted his letter of resignation with effect from 3rd July 2015. However, the date indicated in the letter is 16 December 2015. Following his defeat at the general election, the doctor in question filed an appeal at the Health Ministry on the 8th of August 2016 requesting to reinstate him in the medical service. Responding to his appeal, the Ministry of Health informed that the doctor in question will be assigned to the Dambulla Hospital on temporary basis under the 131 section of the 32nd chapter of the Establishment Code. The letter was issued with the official seal of the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Amal Harsha De Silva. The appeal was filed on the 9th of August 2016. The cabinet approval was given on the 21st of July 2016. How did an appeal filed on the 9th of August get the cabinet approval on the 21st of July 2016? The letter talks about section 131 of the 32nd chapter of the Establishment Code, but there is no such thing. It was also instructed to assign him back to the Kurunegala Hospital based on the annual transfer in 2014. This is where the problem is. He is assigned to the Kurunegala Hospital through a transfer, violating the Establishment Code. They have given him the seniority like the last time. They can't do that, and it's clearly stated on the 30th page of the Establishment Code. The Establishment Code clearly states that the staffer or a supervising officer of public service cannot enjoy political privileges. Such an individual should resign from his position before contesting in a general election where it will be considered as a retirement. According to the Establishment Code, an officer subject to political privileges can contest in elections by obtaining a no-pay leave with the condition of reinstating him only on a temporary basis. Dr. Shafi had contested in the general election after resigning from his position as an internal staff officer. However, the Ministry of Health reinstated him based on the regulations as an employee of temporary service. According to the Public Administration Circular number 32 of 2017, a doctor is a senior member in staff. This is completely wrong. The Public Service Commission said that they have issued a letter stating that he cannot be appointed. The Cabinet says that according to the 55th section of the Constitution, there is a right to make an appeal. He has not been appointed as a permanent staff member, so this is illegal. The Cabinet can make policy changes on public sector officials, but they can't treat one particular employee in this manner. They have clearly violated the Constitution.
The Court of Appeal will hear afresh from 31st July the case filed against Minister Rishad Badiuddin and several other respondents. Now, the case was filed by the Centre for Environmental Justice and it sought an order to prevent the attempt to illegally distribute 100 acres of land close to the Vilpattu National Park for the purpose of resettlement of people.
The respondents in the case are Minister Rishad Bathyudin, the Director Generals of the Department of Wildlife and the Department of Forest Conservation and several others. The verdict of the case filed back in 2015 was to be delivered yesterday. Proceedings of the case concluded in September 2018 and on 4 separate occasions the verdict was postponed by Appeal Court Judge Mahinda Samyawardana, before whom the case was taken up earlier.
The Honourable Judge has informed the President of the Court of Appeal, and the President of the Court of Appeal has taken measures accordingly to summon all parties to court and inform them in this regard. Therefore, this sensitive matter will be heard afresh before a new committee. The case was taken up before courts today to set dates. As per court orders, the case will be heard afresh from the 31st of July.
An event to distribute dry rations was held at the new town hall in Colombo today. Now, Governor of the Western Province Asad Saleh spoke to the media following this event.
The doctor should carry out these tests. Has this doctor done something wrong for these mothers? How come there were no complaints all this time? This was the same question that is raised by Minister Rajada. That's exactly what I'm saying. You are waiting to provoke issues. Do your politics and your programs when an election comes. Don't do it now. Why do I have to safeguard anyone? Listen to me. You asked the same questions from Rajada Senaratne. He also says that investigation should be carried out first. So be patient. This is also like the story about illegal sterilization drugs. Don't rush into anything. Be calm. No, he didn't say anything like that to us. He must have told you that. We will use the power that has been vested with us. If it is too much, you can take action.
Ambulance was donated yesterday to the rural hospital in Ambalantota under the auspices of the Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajid Premadasa.
The donations were made under the project to provide ambulances to rural hospitals in the Hambantota district under the Samata Sahana National Program. Equipped with the latest facilities, the value of these ambulances is estimated at 9.2 million rupees. Several local political representatives attended the event. We are initiating massive changes in the health sector with the aim of generating benefits to the public. There is a drug mafia in operation. However, we do not have such associations or any involvement in such drug mafias. If the present government was able to reduce the price of medical drugs, why weren't prices reduced 5 years ago? Remember, what we want is not to strengthen the health of our leaders. Our aim is to improve the health and lifestyle of the general public.